Is Mike here now?
Hey Mike, can you hear us?
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Smyth County Board of Supervisors June meeting. I think this is the only one we're going to have this month if we can get it all accomplished tonight. So thank you for being here with us. And as always, we're going to start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Manuel Street, and then remain standing, please, for the invocation. And I got to read this. Invocation led by Turner Cross of the Mount Zion Temple Family Worship Center. So thank you, and Manuel, it's all yours.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, I thank you, God, for this day. And this is the day you've made. We rejoice and we're glad in it. Father, I thank you, Father, this opportunity to come together. Father, we ask that you would just give wisdom and give guidance and instruction on what to do. Father, we ask you this because you know all things about all things, and you know what's best for all of us. So, God, I thank you for leading, guiding, and directing. God, as this meeting goes forth, receive all the glory. That's our desire. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. First off, we got one Board of Supervisor member wanting to join us electronically, so do I? Let me do We got one Board of Supervisor member wanting to join us electronically, so I entertain a motion to allow it.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Sounds like that was unanimous. Mike, welcome aboard. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Now you're gonna have to speak up because I don't pay too much attention to it, so just interrupt me if you need to. Okay? Sounds good. We're sort of informal. We're formally informal. Let's put it that way. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, we do.
Old business recommendation from the Planning Commission. Okay, I have a motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it was unanimous. All right, moving on now to presentations. Page Right After School Program Update.
Good evening. We were able to carry out the after-school program in 5 elementary schools all year. We had Atkins, Chilhowie, Marion, Oak Point, and Sugar Grove. We started the year with 81 active kids. We ended the year with 73 active kids, plus 3 kids that belong to staff. Now, when I say active, we have some that come and go. We have some that move away, and others because of whatever reason that come in, so it's kind of just a fluid ordeal. We did lose 14 throughout the year because they either moved out of the area or started extracurricular activities, changes in parent schedules, so when they left we knew they were not coming back, at least this school year. Like last year in May, I did a survey of parents, program staff, and school administration. Got back 35 responses, and all of them minus 1 was positive. I have sent out letters of intent for just to get a head start for next year so that I knew what staff would be available, who wouldn't, where I needed to fill holes. We are going to make a few changes to procedural type things. This past 2 years we have filtered applications and the weekly fees. Kids would bring it to school, hand it to the teacher would pass it on, and it became very, just a trail. So they're going to start when somebody has to pick the child up. When whoever comes to pick them up on the Monday, they are going to hand us the check. We do have some parents that pay. I have one parent that pays by the semester. I have some that pay monthly. I've got some that pay every 2 weeks. When you start adding up monthly fees plus 2 or 3 kids, it's a good sized check that I wouldn't send my 12-year-old to school with. So that will eliminate some of those issues. We are scheduled to start the program on August 14th next year. We do not do the first week of school. We do not do the last week of school because teachers are wild to begin with. We did have a couple of incidences this year, mainly behavior. I did suspend one young man from Oak Point with about 3 weeks left because of some rather inappropriate 3rd grade behavior. If parents are interested in him returning next year, we're going to sit down and have a meeting and set some goals and some guidelines. And then 2 weeks before school ended, I had a staff member at Oak Point that slid on a piece of mulch and broke her foot. Yeah. So otherwise, we had a great year.
Any questions? I just want to make a comment. The input I've received is very positive. And that's basically with the Atkins program.
Right.
Parents up there have been tickled to death with what and I talked to a couple of staff too, and they were very pleased with it. So.
Yeah, we've had a good year. The one negative survey we had was, of course, from the parent of the student that I suspended. And it was very obvious. So I just kind of put it as an outlier, but everything else was raving stars.
Thank you for setting up the program.
You're welcome.
Any goals for next year?
Survive.
Are we going to be in any new schools or?
My goal is to be in all 7.
Okay.
Let's see, I had that on here. I have applications because I tweaked it just a tiny bit because of custody issues. I have them ready and have told parents when we finish the year, those will go out June 15th. I was waiting until after tonight. They go out first to those who have been in the program. I've had several who have already done 2 years with us that have already said, child's 3rd grade, put me down for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Then I post it to Facebook. I send it to Terry Hawthorne. He puts it on all the school web pages. I collect all of them from whatever school, and as long as we have 5.
That's your magic number.
That's my magic number. And Rich Valley and Rich Valley and Saltville are the 2 schools that we haven't had, and I've got both administrators on board. There's buses that exchange, so if I can get 5 between those 2 schools, I can open a 6th. I'd start there.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Thank you so much.
It's a good program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public hearings, I'm not aware of any.
No, sir.
Minutes of the previous meeting. It's in your packet. Everybody have a chance to look at it?
Move to approve.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
One abstention.
Okay. Unanimous except for an extension. So I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was there. Thank you.
All righty. Minutes of financial status report. Lisa, we'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the red tab of your additional agenda folder, you will find the county expenses and appropriation report from the treasurer's office, which references the bank and CD balance ending May 2023 as $23,419,081.76, and that does include the radar fund, ARPA money, and the $2.7 million for the transfer station, bond that we received. And as usual, the attachment is included for the water and sewer collection. On the second page, the uncollected taxes through 2021 and for 2022. Mr. Burkett has included the first 5-year collection window spreadsheet that he does for the county, and then with that is treasurer's accountability report. Also in your binder is, on the back side of the red flap, is the expenditure summary and the revenue summary through May 2023. That's all I have.
And I think I'm having a senior moment, but I'm gonna ask.
Mm-hmm.
On
Yes,
the
sir.
first page that you pulled up,
Right.
we're showing the unspent appropriations, June through July, July through June, unspent appropriations at 21 million. Is that because of the school board?
Yeah, largely, I'd say, if you look over on the right, there's your expenses and unspent appropriation, so the school board accounts for 15 million.
On that.
Okay, for some reason that just hit me wrong. I thought, well, maybe that should be backwards. Okay,
They'll spend a lot of that this summer.
right, that's salaries mainly,
Yes,
okay.
yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we don't need to approve that, so we'll move on to payment of invoices and accounts payable. We had a list of those in your packet. Do we have any questions, or I'll entertain a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It sounds like it was unanimous. Citizens time. As you know, we set aside time each meeting for citizens to speak on whatever they might want to, and first off is Rosalind at the library. Good to see you, Rose.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm back to give you your regular update on what's going on at the library. We're having a really busy summer this year. In addition to summer reading, which started last Saturday with a Hawaiian luau out in Saltville at the wave pool. We had more than 300 people show up with fire dancers. And yeah, it was really terrific. So that was our first summer reading event, and then we moved on story times in Saltville and Chilhowie on Tuesday. Right now over in the library in Marion, we've got Captain Jim and Lady Louisa doing a pirate magic show. And so we'll run through about the 20th of July every week with 2 programs. We've got hundreds of kids signed up for summer reading, so it's always an exciting time of the year for us. In addition to that, we had the last week of May, or May 23rd to the 25th, we had the first visit from the consultant for the ARC grant project for the new facility in Saltville. And he had wonderful meetings. We had about 25 people show up from the community for a community meeting. And then he had smaller group meetings with business people, with civic organizations, with patrons and parents of the library, basically saying what they want in a library in Saltville, what they need, what they don't have now, and what they'd like to see for the future. So that was his first working visit. We'll be meeting with him next week to go over his preliminary conclusions. But the goal is to have all of that work done by the end of September and come up with a solid proposal. So we're very excited to get that started. In addition, we did get our Digital Navigator grant from the Department of Housing and Community Development. So we've got $10,000 for one of 10 pilot projects across the state. And so we are able to now offer one-on-one assistance to anybody in Smyth County who needs it. They call and make an appointment, and we will help them figure out which is the best internet service provider for them, what kind of device they need, if they need to use PowerPoint, whatever the tech need is. If they need to figure out how to use an app on their phone, they can have a one-on-one appointment. They can come as often as they'd like. We'd like them to come often because it takes practice to learn something new like that. So we look forward to seeing folks. We will do the meetings wherever people want to do them. We can do them in the library. If they prefer to do it at McDonald's, we'll do it at McDonald's, whatever is most convenient to the clients. So we've got that up and running. And you've been hearing me talk for a year about the Holston Associated Libraries. That finally happens at the end of this month. So on June 28th, we will be up and running in the Holston Associated Library system, where all of our patrons will have access to Washington County Public Library, Tazewell County, Emory and Henry College, and King University. We will be closed on the 26th and 27th of June because we have to move all of our information out of one computer system into another. So we will be closed to the public for those 2 days. And finally, I just had I know it's budget season, so I thought I'd give you a couple numbers for this year. So since January 1st of this year, all 3 locations have had 67,592 visitors come through our doors. That's a lot. We have, that's up 30% over last year. We had circulation is up 10% across the board. We've issued 834 new cards since January 1st, and we've had 13,604 unique visits to our website. So I feel like we're reaching the community, and we're thrilled to see that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Just a comment on my part, it seems you're doing something right. I mean, 2 times the county population, and I mean, that's fantastic.
Yep, and a lot of it is people not always coming in to borrow stuff. People come in to read the newspaper. People come in to use the public computers. We do a lot of printing and faxing, so it's a little bit of everything.
Maybe they feel more welcome now than they used to. I hope that's it.
I hope that is it. But we're lucky to have a creative and wonderful staff and a very supportive community.
Any questions for him?
Wonderful job.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Fields. Name and address for the record, if you don't mind.
I'm Dave Fields. I live at 412 Kelly Hill Road, and you know me better because Susie, my wife, is usually up here thanking for your support of Smyth Animal Rescue, which we have big red building at exit 47. And because of your new business line item for electric vehicle charging station, whatever we're going to be doing, is I'm just here to support whatever we could do to put one in and to offer the land that I have in conjunction with whatever the county would want to do, that we could form some kind of partnership and actually have a charging station right at exit 47. So I'm completely in support of that, and I'd love to stick around and hear that, but I have another board meeting to go to. So if you have any questions or anything, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll get you an update.
Mr. DeBoard. I'm sorry, we just ran out of time.
Hey, I printed it all off for you, Anna Lee DeBoard, 343 College Street, Marion. And got each of you a copy of our newsletter so you can see what we've been doing this winter. We had the Marion College reunion group come in for a luncheon. Had the Emory and Henry kids saved our rear ends. Those kids are in such good shape, and they carry trees up and down the stairs, and they put Christmas decorations away, and all you gotta do is feed them pizza, and it's awesome, totally awesome. The Madam Russell Stone is on its way to getting completed, and it will be dedicated in September. As soon as I get a date from Over Mountain Group out of Washington County, I'll let y'all know. And then the Civil War uniform we've got. But don't put me beside a copying machine because I ran off half of it upside down. So, and also this, I'm sorry, but I put a paper clip on so it'll be easier to read. This Sunday at 2 o'clock at the museum, we have a speaker who talks about historic homes and historic home renovations. And so if that's something you'd like to, it's absolutely free. We'd love to have you come. There you go. And if you want an extra step, do you need one? Okay. And one kind of crazy thing, it turns out that back in 1970 something, the cemetery that's behind the Baptist church, the Royal Oak Cemetery, was sold to the town of Marion for $1. And they were supposed to keep it up, and I've been kind of on them about doing that, and they have mowed, but we're missing a big stone, and this marker was erected by order of the Board of Supervisors of Smyth County on behalf of its citizens. It was in September 3rd, 1979. So if y'all come across this big stone, I can't imagine anybody stealing it.
It's not there.
It's not there. So, just in case it turns up in a building somewhere, but, anyway.
Is it a headstone or is it
It's,
just a marker?
it's
Memorial marker.
memorial marker, it's probably, and judging from the picture, I found the picture on the internet, and I had gone up there to see what was still there, and the town has, thank goodness, they've kind of put the nobody's been buried there since 1914, as far as I could find out, and so a lot of the markers have crumbled into the graves or are broken, but whoever mowed has tried to put the stones at least in groups, but they're old, and but there's a Virginia 250 plan that's coming in to remember the Revolution, and so we're going to try to get everything that pertains to that era cleaned up and ready for visitors to come in. But any questions? We'd love to see you Sunday if you're not busy.
She's a great speaker.
I've communicated through emails and text messages, but I can't wait to meet him.
He's
So.
a great person.
Yeah.
I enjoyed getting to know him.
Okay, come visit us. We're open 6 days a week, noon to 4. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay.
Thank you, Annalee. Mr. Walker.
Hello, Brian Walker, 735 Meadow Drive in Marion. And hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank y'all for giving me a few minutes of your time this evening. I won't take long. My name is Brian Walker, and as most of you know, I'm the Democratic nominee for Smyth County Commissioner of Revenue in the upcoming November election. First thing I want to do here is to take this opportunity to be the first one on record to congratulate our local high school athletes for their recent performances in the state championships. The Lady Canes won the ladies tennis championship today, and Chilhowie had an individual relay team and a triple jumper win, and it takes an incredible amount of effort, dedication, and work to win a state championship and to bring it back to our area. So those young folks need some recognition and congratulations from. And I just wanted to get that on the record. Secondly, and we'll talk about me. Now that I've secured the party nomination for the Commissioner of Revenue, I want to take the opportunity to go around the county and officially introduce myself to the various governing bodies, including each of the town councils and all of you on the Board of Supervisors, even though I've known many of you in a lot of different capacities over the years. A little bit about me: I'm a Smyth County native. My family has been in 7 Mile Forward for generations. My dad still runs a little fruit stand right there in downtown 7 Mile Forward, right in the heart of the urban district. I graduated from Marion Senior High School in 1994. I hold a bachelor's in business administration degree from King University. I work at Royal Building Products in Atkins, where I supervise what is truly a world-class team of customer service representatives. I live in Marion with my wife Julie and my son Miles. He's a rising 4th grader at Oak Point Elementary School. I'm a devoted member of First United Methodist Church. I serve on various civic and community boards in the area, including the board of directors for the Lincoln Theater and the Mike Smith Scholarship Foundation. I coach multiple rec and upward sports teams for our community's kids and for my own kid. I'm a member and a past president of the Marion Morning Rotary Club, and I'm proud to be part of all these organizations and a leader in them because they give so much back to our community. This community and this county have always supported me in everything that I've done throughout my life, and when I found out last year that Commissioner Jeff Richardson would be stepping down from his role, I made the decision it was time for me to give back to the community in a more official role myself. I've always felt the public service was in my future because I feel this area has given me so much, I owe it to give something back to it. Obviously, the Commissioner's Office works in close conjunction with the Board of Supervisors in a cooperative and collaborative manner to administer the policy that the board sets. I just want to say that if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I look forward to continuing to foster those collaborative relationships with the board and each of the municipalities, that's easy for me to say, isn't it, within the county as we move into the future. Thanks for your time this evening, and I certainly hope that in the future we'll be working together more closely. Thank you all.
Thank you. That's all I had to sign up for. Anyone else wishing to speak? Here's your chance to tell us what you think, and we can't hold it against you. Andy, this is your chance.
I'll wait.
All right, I'll close citizens' time then. Moving on to the committee reports. First up is the Water and Sewer Committee, Mr. Call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I called the Water and Sewer meeting to order at 8:34 a.m. Ms. Richardson discussed the following agenda items. There's 5 active flat rate sewer accounts in the county with large past due balances. These customers do not have a water meter or to measure or consumption or to end the services, that does not exist. But each month the customers are mailed a flat rate sewer bill. Each month that payment is not received, a $50 fee and a 5% penalty is added to the existing balance. They are existing liens on the properties. However, the county is uncertain whether proper procedures were followed to obtain the liens in the past. In several cases, the amount of the past due balances exceeds the value of the property. Mr. Farthing provided information related to the Code of Virginia regarding mandatory hookup fees. Smyth County is permitted to require mandatory connection fees with certain requirements beginning in 2018. However, most of these projects were installed prior to 2018. Northport District Supervisor Phil Stevenson asked that the Water Department physically check to see if a tap exists at the discussed addresses, and for the Water Department staff to bring back calculated past due balances beyond 5 years for the committee's information at the next meeting. After discussion, a motion was made. Northport Supervisor Phil Stevens recommended staff to prepare past due balance on flat rate water accounts beyond 5 years and bring the information to the next Water and Sewer Committee meeting. Rye Valley District Supervisor Laura Deal seconded the motion, and it was unanimous approval. Unanimous approval. That's a committee recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
But that's nothing we have to vote on because that's bringing it back to the committee itself, so.
Right.
That's not for us, so continue on.
Okay, she also discussed working towards a mandatory connection fee hookup policy. After further discussion, the following motion was made. A motion was made by Phil Stevenson to recommend working towards a mandatory connection fee hookup and establish a policy. Rye Valley District Laura Deal seconded motion, and it was unanimously approved. Does that need to be a...
No, that doesn't require a vote of us either.
Okay. Next, Ms. Richardson brought credit balances to the committee's attention. Currently, some accounts have very small credit balances and some with larger amounts. She recommended they consider an internal SAG policy for write-off amounts up to a specified amount. After further discussion, a motion was made by Northport District Phil Stevenson to recommend directing staff to take the necessary steps to resolve credit balances. Rye Valley Supervisor Lori Deal seconded it, and it was unanimously approved. Does that need any further action?
I'm debating on that one. I don't think so.
You're just directing them to do something. I don't see why it would.
Some of the accounts are 10, 12 years or older, so we thought it would be good just to have the board direction, since they're that old, to go ahead and have that on the record.
What we're talking about, well, I've got you interrupted. Back in '05, those years, we signed off to, as the chief financial officer, I signed off on many forms to USDA that we had mandatory hookup. Every time we got a new bond, we had to state that we had mandatory hookup. So, you know, saying it didn't exist before 18 is incorrect.
Well,
We didn't enforce it, but it existed.
I think we had it in our ordinance, but I looked to Mr. Farthing, I don't know that we had, you know, being the Dillon Rule state, I don't know that we had authorization to have that in our ordinance until 2018. Is that the way I was reading, Mr. Farthing?
Yes, that's correct.
So I lied to the federal government.
It was in our, no, it was in our code.
It's in the ordinance.
It was in our ordinance. We just didn't, it was.
Didn't enforce it.
Yeah.
Says we couldn't do it to 2018, is what you say, but when we borrowed the money from the government, they required us to do that.
Yeah.
So
Well, it was in our
they was
ordinance.
asking to do something we couldn't enforce, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It's good
beyond
now.
that, Charlie, we need to get it done, and move on with it.
Yeah, we do. All right,
You ready?
you ready?
Okay, Ms. Richardson also discussed liens / write-offs for uncollectible final balances due for customers who have moved and left outstanding balances without due contact information. Discussion concerning set-off debt was discussed with information requested by Mr. Parrington. Following motion was made. The motion was made by Phil Stevenson recommending to table a decision on liens and write-off amounts until further information is provided. Ms. Laura Deal seconded the motion and was unanimously approved.
Okay, no motion, no action on our part required.
What we asked the attorney, Charlie, was that he would go see how much it was gonna cost to collect them. There was so many of them at small amounts to see if it was feasible to collect them.
Yeah.
So less than $1 or something. Okay. Ms. Richardson then brought a request from Jeffrey Jackson. Craig Matley was on this account to the committee for consideration. Mr. Jackson called the water department and asked for an adjustment to a lien that was placed on the property due to an unpaid water bill. Mr. Jackson stated the property is being sold and asked for leniency on the fees and penalties. After discussion, a motion was made by Phil Stevenson recommending denying the request for the removal of current fees and penalties on Mr. Matley's account. Ms. Laura Deal seconded the motion and it was unanimous. Is that required? Any further action?
Yeah, it does.
No.
Yeah,
I think it required.
I think we need to vote on that one too,
What's the committee recommendation?
okay. Basically, the committee, moved and seconded to uphold the fees and not allow the release of those fees.
That's correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of continuing like as it is, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like that was unanimous.
Okay, next, Ms. Richardson discussed the previously approved foreclosure adjustment for Daniel Johnson. The committee had previously agreed to accepted payment from the Bank of Marion as payment in full for Mr. Johnson's account. The Bank of Marion paid $2,400 and left a balance of $20,693 and needs a final approval for writing off this balance. After discussion, Phil Stevenson recommending writing off the final balance of $20,693 off Daniel Johnson's account. Ms. Laura Deal seconded the motion and it was unanimously approved.
Okay.
That's another need probably.
A motion to approve, we have a motion to approve the write-off.
Committee
Any discussion? Yeah.
If you remember, that's the one for the people that wasn't here that the bank said they couldn't sell if we didn't write it off.
Right.
I'm not for writing stuff off, but that's why we agreed to write it off. I don't know whether you was here or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I guess my question is, how did it get $25,000? No,
Fees and
20,
penalties out of
excuse
it.
me, 23,000.
We got some at 300,000.
It's,
They're the ones
Yeah.
that's wild.
it's sort of like, would you rather have a penny a day doubling every day or $1 million every day? I mean, it's, when you add that $50 and the 5% penalty,
It adds up quickly.
One customer, 400,000.
The reason we wrote this one off is the bank made the plea to the board that they couldn't sell it if we didn't write it off. The reason we didn't write the prior one off that we just voted on, I mean, for you and people here, is he had done sold it. He done got his money. So with him getting his money, I felt like he owed the county. Now Murray's plea was, you don't write this off, we're gonna lose, we're just gonna lock it, and y'all gonna lose everything.
Just gonna
Wasn't
sit
it the
there.
rundown property
It
too,
was,
like we
yeah.
wanted it to,
The lien was higher than the value of the
right,
property.
yes.
That's what it
just-
was,
yeah,
so
I
we
knew
wrote that off.
Yeah.
It wasn't we was playing favoritism to one over the other.
Right.
We did end up getting about $2,500
We
in
did.
revenue from the Bank of Marion with Ashton Lane.
So we took the board took action to accept that $2,400 or $2,500 from the Bank of Marion, but at the same time, we should have moved to adjust off any outstanding balance, and we didn't do that, so it's something we need to do, just to get it.
clean it off the books.
So lucky
Off
to
the
get
books.
2,400.
So that's a committee recommendation to write off the rest of it. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it was unanimous.
Okay, lastly, Ms. Richardson spoke with the current policy for leak adjustments. Currently, to be eligible for the once-a-year leak adjustment, the customer has to provide a copy of the receipt from the water leak repair. There are some cases where a customer repairs a leak and may not have a receipt. Staff would like to remove that requirement from the policy and the leak adjustment form. After discussion was made, Bill Stevens made a recommendation changing the leak adjustment policy and form to not require a receipt for the water leak repair. Ms. Deal seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved. And I shut the meeting down at 9:19 a.m.
Okay, we have a committee, recommendation. Any further discussion? I'm all for it because I had to repair, I replaced the whole line coming into my house, but I did it myself and I couldn't get a leak adjustment.
Well, the committee's thought was, we got a meter we read water by. If that meter's not showing a leak anymore, that's all the receipt you need. It's been fixed, somebody fixed it.
Yep, I agree. Didn't do me any good though. It didn't do me any good, man, he's still working back there. Still didn't get it.
That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
All right, all those in favor, any more discussion on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Sounds like it was unanimous. Thank you, Roscoe.
You're welcome, sir.
Moving on now to the Solid Waste Committee. And that's me, Sean, you gonna take it?
Go ahead. Mr. Williams will take care of it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So the Solid Waste Committee met on June the 1st at 9 a.m. There were two items up for discussion that day. The first was a request that I'd received from a citizen to consider changing the policy not to take tires at convenience stations. And the proposal was to start to allow taking those provided they cut them into quarters, because that's what we're now doing at the transfer station. After discussing several possible issues with that, a motion was made by North Fork District Supervisor Phil Stevenson to recommend denying the tire disposal policy change, with the exception of a potential waiver that would indicate origination from the Nebo community. Saltville District Roscoe Call seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved.
Okay, I guess we need to vote just that we are going to continue the policy as is. Any discussion?
I have a question. Just because there's a graveyard hump of tires in my district, I have to ask this. By not making it more convenient to dispose of tires, are we encouraging people to have dump sites?
I mean, that was the argument that the citizen was making to me.
I'm playing devil's advocate here because
Where do you have, the same situation was on Nebo Mountain. The guy brought this complaint up to address what you're saying, to get to a point. He was claimed that he was cleaning the side of Nebo Mountain up and it was inconvenient to come. What the committee talked about then was in a situation like that, going out and setting a can for them where they could throw their tires away. Now, if you got somebody like that over there, then the committee was willing to feel like they would go beyond to help somebody like that. And one of my thoughts was, if somebody gonna roll a tire over a mountain, they're gonna roll a tire over a mountain whether you can take it to a convenience station or not. We got several dump sites that within 2 miles of a convenience station around on Mill Dam Road, but, you know, if you got a place what we thought, if you had one to clean up, then we try to work out a can. One of the reasons our thought was turning it down and changing the rule was, the tires are supposed to be cut in quarters. That's how they go to where we haul it to. Well, we thought there might be some question where somebody didn't want to do a quarter, they just want to do a half and bring it in, throw it in, and say, here's your quarter. You need to take my tire. Puts more responsibility on the convenience station. Another reason is, if we stop them from coming to the landfill and they go to the convenience station, then we got all that excess we got to truck in. I mean, you kind of paid Rob Peter to pay Paul, but we felt like there wasn't enough to say we need to change this. We didn't feel like we had that big a problem. There's some places that are bad, but I don't know how we ever gonna stop it.
Right. Well, the reason I ask is because, and I totally agree with your point of if somebody's gonna throw it over the mountain, they're gonna throw it over the mountain. You're not gonna get people like that to be responsible and dispose of it properly. But the issue for me is the tire dumping spot in my district in Camp. That's not just individuals throwing tires over the mountain. That's like businesses sneaking around and doing it because there's not a convenient way for them to do it. So
well, that's another thing we felt like if we let them go at the convenience station, that the business would take advantage of going to the convenience station. They wouldn't have to go to the landfill and pay. They just go in an unmarked truck, dump, fill it up, and then you got to pay to haul it in.
Right.
When by all reality, the businesses are the one that ought to be paying to get rid of what they made money off of.
Right.
So we wanted to deter that.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. I'm just trying to figure out a way to.
I don't think you're ever gonna stop it unless we get some, you know, years ago they tried to litter deputy. That ain't going no more. You can't get, the sheriff's department's overtaxed, so they can't address litter.
Sure.
And you know, if somebody's gonna throw a whole tar over a mountain, they sure ain't gonna take the time to cut it up in 4 pieces.
Right.
And haul it to the thing.
And these were coming in dump truck loads being dumped on Quill Run. I mean, how do you stop that? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm just being.
If you ever caught a dump truck and could write a ticket on somebody, burn them, I mean, you know, that's how you stop stuff. But people that's gonna litter,
They're just gonna litter.
it's disgusting to throw something out of a vehicle, you know.
I know.
That's about a sorry piece of trash that you can have. You toss it out in somebody's yard, those are the same people that throws it over the mountain. So we didn't feel like we was benefiting anybody for changing what we was doing.
Is there a county that has a policy in place that we could evaluate? Or does everybody pretty much do what we do?
I mean, I would be happy to ask that question and come back and report.
I'd just like to see it.
I mean, that was part, so the gentleman that visited me, that was part of his frustration. According to him, Wood County and Bland County do accept tires at the convenience station. Or at their convenience station.
But we also offered to take a dump truck there for this guy so he could do what he wanted to do, and we come and haul it off, and he didn't even have to shred it.
And that's what I'm wanting, like, is it a case-by-case basis thing that we can do?
More or less.
And I guess be more customer service friendly and approaching these businesses that have the tires and saying, hey, if we implement this program and come by once a month or whatever and take the tires for you, like, would that deter some of it? We're never gonna stop the.
I wouldn't have no problem with that as long as they pay a tipping fee,
Right.
the same tipping fee of us going out there and getting it.
Sure. And looking at, cost-benefit analysis to see.
That way, if you had a tire place that didn't quarter them like they ought to be quartered, you'd know where the problem come from.
Exactly.
That's a good solution, but I don't think a solution of taking it to the convenience station is a solution, because I think you put all the responsibility on a convenience station to say they're quartered perfectly.
Right.
I'm sure if we take them to wherever we're going now and we take a half instead of a quarter, and it becomes a habit, they're gonna say, you need to take this back and do it right.
I see, and I agree. I just wanted to ask that question from a devil's advocate standpoint and see if we could discuss it.
You know, if you want to go somewhere like Marion Tar and do what you wanted talking about, and they want to, I'm all for it as long as they keep paying a tipping fee.
Well, I'd love to see you all explore that if that's okay.
Well, they charge for each tar they
place on the car, they charge you a disposal fee.
Yep.
They're getting paid.
So they're making money on it.
Right.
Okay, any more discussion? We have a motion to recommend declining the disposal policy change. Except for coming here and, if you're doing a cleanup, you can come in and get a permit, we'll work with you. All those in favor all those in favor of declining the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? I think it was
Declining
unanimous.
the motion, sorry.
Declining the request.
Declining the request, the motion is to decline, okay, sorry, I'm just.
While we're on this, right quick, you know, somewhere down the road, somebody needs some vision to clean some of these spots up. I don't know where it's gonna come from, how you gonna do it.
We had that at one time, and we can look at bringing that back.
Well, I know years ago, on your first term, we got money to clean up the old mill dam, but it never got cleaned up. Mainly because the owners are out of state, and we didn't get a permission, but some of these dump sites need to be addressed.
Yeah, and I know Craig spent some weekends, some Saturdays of his own time up on the mountain doing some tire cleanup.
Yeah, we used to be, and still are technically, members of a regional group. And they, when they were active, would pick a dump site in Southwest Virginia, and they would, literally, all of the forces from each jurisdiction would come and clean it up, and that's how we got Nebo Mountain cleaned up. Mill Dam was slated, but the program was eliminated before we got to Mill Dam.
You haven't run out of money or something. The sheriff's department actually went out there and put a camera up and didn't catch nobody. I mean, they tried. But
Yeah, we can administratively, we can talk about trying to get something back in place.
well, I hope in the future.
That was the program the county cut, basically cut their nose off to spite their face, really.
Ms. Lofton had a good idea that we have this Smyth Promise program. The kids have to have 10 hours of community service. Get some kids over to help clean up some of these sites if we can organize the boxes and all that.
As Annalise says, you offer him pizza, he gets a pretty good workout.
Whatever you need.
I wouldn't wanna send a kid over to bank the old mill dam.
No, you'd have to have a good group of volunteers to go with.
I wouldn't lay that on no kid. That's dangerous.
Is it something inmates can do? Sounds like a good job.
Something they've done before.
I wouldn't have no problems in the inmate.
They've been the ones that do. Clean up your own mess.
You'd be surprised they did, people you least suspect. All righty, going on now to, next one.
So the second matter that was discussed at the committee meeting was a request that came to us from the town of Marion, more specifically their EDA. They've recently embarked on their BOD program, which is basically an effort to clean up blighted and underutilized properties within the town of Marion. And part of that program is literally the demolition of, I think they're at 12 homes now, and have several more to go. So as you can imagine, they're encountering some fairly high tipping fees disposing of these homes. So they made a request to the Solid Waste Committee to basically be exempt of 50% of those fees, or for the county to write off 50% of those fees. So after discussion, a motion was made by North Fork District Supervisor Phil Stevenson to deny the partnership with the town of Marion to pay half the tipping fees for the BOD program. Saltville District Supervisor Roscoe Call seconded the motion, and it was unanimously passed.
Okay, we have a motion we have a committee recommendation to deny the request. Any discussion?
Yes, my book says to table the partnership.
That's incorrect.
Correct.
That was correct. So these are obviously draft minutes. The committee has not had a chance to review and approve these. So it was pointed out that the minutes were incorrect, that it wasn't tabled. It was actually, the motion was to deny.
Okay, good, because I was gonna make a motion to deny after we made a motion to table it.
Okay, so we're voting on it to deny, as I said. Any more discussion? After we make this motion, I want to bring another idea up.
I have a quick question, clarification. These properties that they're reclaiming, for lack of a better term, cleaning up, they're in turn going to sell them and capture potentially some profit minus the expenses of cleaning it up.
Some people involved with.
Thank you.
Very little, from the information he gave us, very little profit's going to be made. Most of them are going to be.
It'll be a loss.
A loss to the town.
I anticipate every one of them will be a loss. Between the initial cost, acquisition, the demo, and then seeding the site, stabilizing the site. But the goal obviously is to get those properties, back into some sort of development. Either an adjoining property owner that wants to buy them, get them back in the tax rolls, or somebody that's interested in developing them and building a house on them.
And secondly, if they do clean up a blighted property, 2 or 3, and they tend to be 2 or 3 together, the whole neighborhood benefits, and then you see property value in the neighborhood rise a little bit. And we in the county our tax base would go up in that neighborhood, so we benefit from it.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. What licensed demolition contracting company are they using to demolish these properties?
Town staff. So they're purchasing the homes and using their own staff to demo the homes.
So they're saving money by using their own staff to do that.
Correct.
So, just
Did they
pointing
get
that out.
$1 million or something out of some program?
So the town of Marion dedicated $500,000 of their ARPA money to this. They got a line of credit from the Bank of Marion, and now, as Mr. Atkins said, they're in the process of getting ready to sell. So some of that money will be coming back into the coffers to keep going, to keep buying lots, and they're not demoing every home. Some of them are being rehabbed. Some of them are being remodeled if, they were in a.
Some of them just like, and they also said some of them was donated that they didn't even have to buy.
They are acquiring these properties from all kinds of sources. You'll see Town of Marion staff on the courthouse steps when tax sales are done. If property is not being maintained, they'll hit them effectively with a violation of the property maintenance code. And in that letter, they'll offer to take it as a donation. And some folks are taking them up on that offer.
That's kind of like the mafia, ain't it?
Sounds like
Well, the problem I had with it, I don't know if it can be in discussion, they're actually taking taxpayers' money, basically, buying homes and selling them, which is great to clean them up, but you're actually competing against real estate people. They're using their own money to buy houses out from under real estate people that could rehab them, that would make a living on them. And I asked him specifically how many he was talking about, and he said it could be 400. And the time limit on that was, not so much about the tipping fees, but the time limit I asked him, he said indefinitely.
I think in theory that could happen, but they have said repeatedly that their goal is to work themselves out of that profession. They would love for private interest to come in and take over buying, rehabbing, or demoing and building those. But the reality is that's not happening right now. There is no private development that's buying these homes and remodeling them and demoing them. And so like Mr. Atkins said, the hope is that you get a few, and hopefully that interest builds and the private sector takes interest and takes over.
But you used the word reality. In reality, they got COVID money to do this, and they wanted to go beyond what money they got, and the good citizens out in Smyth County have to pay to get it hauled away and dumped, because when it goes down the road, somebody pays.
And that's very true.
And that's why the motion was made to deny. Stay within your means. They got money to do so many. I'm sorry you can't do it all, but do what you got money for. Don't ask the people of Rich Valley to pay for the people's town of Marion's demolition. So that's why I made the motion, if you want to know the truth.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor of this, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Sounds like it was unanimous. Now, I would like to add, we are charging them for the disposal fee, and I'm just kicking this out to think about it. We're charging them $80 a ton for disposal. Our cost to dispose of it is $53 a ton, correct?
I thought we was losing money.
So to get the tonnage that's paid for, to get that to Bluntville and back, that's $53. However, that's only about 40% of the overall tonnage, so about 60% of the tonnage isn't paid for at all. So that's what you get to convenience stations or what have you. So that's why that drives that $54 up to the $80, and we're still losing about $1 million a year overall. Oh, 1.1 million, I think, this coming year.
So it's up,
It's up from last
it's
year.
up 1 point.
Yeah. It's up
We
a little
actually
over
thought it
100,000.
was gonna be worse than that.
Yeah.
And I get where you're going, Charlie, and I'm not totally against that, but I still think you ought to have a limit before you pass it on to somebody else, and the fact that you're losing 1 point, if we wasn't losing any money, I know where you're going.
That's why I needed to know that. Okay, that was just a discussion.
No, I agree with you, if we wasn't losing no money, I'd let them go for what it costs.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was looking toward, but, we need some help with our 1.1 million. Okay. Moving on to the budget committee now.
Take care of that?
Yes, sir.
So the budget committee did have a meeting on the June 1st at 10 o'clock. We had a few items to discuss. First part of the meeting was dealing with the FY 23-24 budget proposal that's we've had public hearing a couple weeks ago on, and we'll have hopefully some action later on tonight. The discussion that we really focused on was the personal property tax question. If you'll remember, for many years, our personal property tax rate has been $2.30 per hundred. This past year, this current year, the board voted to reduce that to $2.15 for vehicles that are affected by the NADA used car value spike that we've experienced. Looking at the rates and talking with the Commissioner of Revenue's office, if we remain with the $2.15, we'll lose right at $700,000. Going back to the $2.30, which is what was advertised, we would only lose $300,000 from what we've received this year, and that amount has actually been budgeted. So going to the $2.15, I'd have to find $400,000 somewhere in the proposed budget. I see next year from everything we've heard and expect, next year's budget will probably drop another $350,000 to $400,000 back to pre-pandemic levels. So we'll have some more cuts to deal with next year. But we did, I guess the budget committee did not want to take action themselves. They wanted to have this as a full discussion on with the overall board. Mr. Chairman, if you want to lead that discussion.
May I ask a question when we open it up?
Go right ahead.
So, I'm a little bit lost here. We're losing money that we never had to start with, right?
Well, no. So, we've budgeted, and I don't know exact numbers, so we budgeted $4 million in personal property taxes. And that's based on the $2.30 level. If we stick with the $2.15 level, then the projected revenues are only $3.6 million. So that's where the loss of $400,000.
So what you're telling me is, we went down because the price of vehicles went up. That was the reason for the whole adjustment. So what you're telling me, if I'm understanding right, is we went too far.
No. So we went down when the price of vehicles were up. Price of vehicles this year in the most recent NADA books have they've dropped 15-18%, and dropping more. So to give you an idea, the current year we've got about $4.3 million in revenues this year. So that $300,000 loss that I'm saying that we've budgeted, and instead of budgeting 4.3 like we've got this year, I'm only budgeting $4 million. So I've already accounted for that $300,000 loss. I just haven't accounted for another $400,000 if we go to 3.6 million.
So what you're wanting to do is go back to the 230.
Go back to the 230. That's the recommendation.
And the vehicles went that much different?
Yes, sir.
You getting ready to run for public office here. You're in a bind.
Right.
You was on the side that I was of dropping it.
Well, we answered his question.
Well, I ain't worried about him yet. All these politicians coming up here and speaking before they got elected, don't do that. It's a waste of my time. Go out somewhere on a podium and do it. This is where I'm at on. You know, we're here for the people. We done that. We dropped it to 215 to save money. We didn't I've said it all along, and this board was tasked with fixing a lot of stuff that need fixed. But we need to tighten our pocketbook a long time ago. Now, you're saying we need whatever dollar amount you told me, and we need to go back to 230, and the citizens need to pay for it. I think we ought to stay where we was and adjust our budget.
Well,
I mean, am I wrong? Am I thinking somewhere off here or something?
yes.
I asked the same question, but I'll, go ahead.
You and I asked the same question?
I did in committee.
Watch out. So, something
Last year, let's just take a key used, well, I bought a new truck, let's just go with that. I bought a new truck, paid $40,000 for it. Bought it in February, in January, $40,000. Well, the NADA book on that truck was $48,000.
I'm with you there.
And so if we left it at 230, it would have been, so for this 1 year, we back down to 215.
I agree.
Okay, now that truck, the next year, that truck has gone back down to a more realistic price. It's back down to about 32,000 now.
But have they gone down enough, Charlie, to go back to the 230?
Well, in the case of my truck, yes. It's gone back a lot more than I thought it would drop.
I'm not seeing that in new diesel trucks. I mean, the new diesel truck is still up around 70, 80,000.
The new trucks aren't, but this is used vehicles I'm talking about.
And that's what they base the personal property taxes on, the NADA used vehicle price. We don't use,
New prices.
new price or trade-in or anything like that. It's, private party value. But just to give you an idea, at $2.15, this past year was $4.3 million. At $2.30, it's only $4 million. So the values are already gone down 18%, and it could be even more if you stuck with the 215. But if I remember correctly, when we were talking last year, we were talking about the 215. I think it was the budget committee's discussion that last year that we needed to make sure it was a one-time thing, and we relooked at this every year so that when the NADA values rebound,
I'm just shocked about it, because I know Lori and I had talked one time, and we even thought about they deserved a refund above what we got. Now, have you changed on that?
No, it just, when they came back with the numbers, it was gonna cost more to give everybody a refund.
Oh, yeah, that's why we didn't do the refund.
And
So
that's-
I'm shocked that you might think that we ought to go back to the 230, I guess. I don't know.
Well, a lot of people felt that we were still charging the 230 because nowhere on our tax ticket did our treasurer indicate that the rate had gone down to 215.
Cause basically everybody paid this, I just did, on the example Charlie just gave, it's a $7 difference, like.
Well, they're not gonna notice when you go down, it's when they go up
I know,
that they
that's
notice.
But still, I think it needs to be, real estate has to be on the ticket. I really think personal property should be on that tax ticket too, not just a surprise, here's the dollar amount.
It's not broken down.
You know,
I agree with you.
Well, you can always keep taxes the same, don't raise them, that's fine. But don't never lower them.
well, we lowered it last year though.
I know. If you do lower them, you will never make up for it.
Well,
And
we're
if you
trying to
ever
just
put
go
them
back to
where we
normal.
were, you're gonna have everybody, including me too, probably, look, well, here we go.
Well,
Going back
technically,
up. Better
technically,
off
there's a question as to
not
whether
to
or
do
not the tax tickets were even legal because it wasn't indicated on there. So, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
What
I
about-
can of worms.
Well, we done what we could by dropping it to 215.
Right.
I just don't know that I'm ready to send it back to the 230. I get your reduction in what vehicles is worth. I don't know that I get that it's come down enough to go back to the 230. I think we're gonna hit them higher than what they normally done. Now, with that being said, I think it's up to us to curb our spending when we run short, not hit, I hate that.
No, I'm with you, I agree.
I don't like hitting people because, hey, I went down here and I bought Wachovia Bank, we need new offices. I'm not saying we done wrong. I'm saying there's times you need to say, hey, you know what? You may have to deal with the old windows, you may have to deal with something that ain't as good. Now, I will give this board one thing, they've tried to improve on a lot of things. But on the other hand, if I had a complaint, if we've done too much, we spent too much. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't go along with the $2.20, but I ain't ready to go back to 2.30.
Well, Mr. Sturgill kicked out splitting the difference and doing it at 2.22.
I'm good at splitting difference.
Cause that would almost make it exactly back based on the current values, the NADA values.
As long as we ain't raising what they used to have.
Well, Charlie's example that he gave, the value at 48,000 and then versus 40,000, it's a $7 difference in what he would pay last year versus this year, going back to the 215 or 230, excuse me, from 215 to 230.
All right, y'all have answered my question. I've lost one now. What the budget committee even recommended.
We recommended going back to the 230.
230.
But I do want to point out, Mr. Sturgill did say, could we look at splitting the difference of the fit by.
If you look at 222 this year and 230 next year, basically, to
get
slow
the
it.
values.
We'd have to turn down your original recommendation, didn't make a motion on it.
Actually, there was no recommendation from the budget committee, it was
He
just
just asked a
discussion.
question.
Yeah.
We sent it to the full board to
Yeah,
say that.
there's no recommendation yet. You'll have to actually have a motion from the board.
I don't think we're gonna keep it at 215, so I'm not gonna win that battle, but I'm willing to get about split it. Like Mr. Sturgill's talking about.
Well, you wanna make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make, well, I said I'd never make a motion to raise taxes. No, I can't do
I thought
that.
After 8 years, I thought I had him.
I gotta lead with some kind of.
I had ready to write that one down. I was like, he is getting ready to make a motion to raise taxes.
I will not vote against it, but I'm not gonna make a motion. Lower you.
No, I see your point, and I'm glad you brought it up.
See what a mess
I
we
had
got.
that- I had the same question.
Don't ever lower them, people.
Hey, Lori?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Hey, I'll make that motion that we make it a 2-year, we split the difference first year. And like I said in the budget committee meeting, that we make it a 2-year face back, so we split the difference.
I don't think we can't obligate the future board, we're gonna have new members here next year.
Okay.
You can always go back and reevaluate it.
We can suggest that we
go
don't
back
make it.
222.5.
I would recommend 222 and stay away from half cents. It's harder on the commissioner's office and the AS 400 doesn't like that.
That's what happens when you have an
Okay.
8-year-old system. It's stupid. Okay, so 222, and then we have to cut how much from the budget at 222?
I think what we can do is we'll adopt it. What I would recommend is adopt the current budget with the 222 rate, and knowing we've got to come back any which way because of the General Assembly and everything else in August. And I can have the revised budget amendments ready based on a 222 personal property tax.
I thought you had a balanced budget at 215, is what you told me.
Now, I had a balanced budget at 230.
You like me.
So basically, can we just vote on all of the tax, or are we just doing this one?
Well, actually, if you later on in the agenda, we do have the tax rate resolution. If you'd rather wait, and we can just vote on that as amended to include a 222 personal property tax.
He made a motion. I mean, I like Mr. Sturgill. I'll go with him, but I ain't gonna
So we
make a
have two
motion.
motions on the floor. We have the one from the committee and the one from Mr. Sturgill.
Committee's not a motion, oh, yeah.
Yeah, the committee, we haven't done it. That's the MOU for the
Yeah, that's
PPC.
something different.
Oh, okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Sturgill to adopt $2.22 personal property tax on automobiles. Everything else will be 230. That's my understanding.
That's the way we did it last year.
Yeah.
Did we do the new ones at 230?
No.
No, everything like a camper, a motorcycle, those items stayed at the 230 this current year. It was just
Everything.
yeah.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate y'all, but let me keep my word. I got 6 months left here, so I'm gonna vote against it. I said I'd never vote to raise taxes, and I've held it close to that.
You're gonna come up
We
with
respect
a
I
vote
respect
against
you
it.
for that,
Yeah.
Mr.
Huh?
Stevenson. I respect you for that.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not running for office again, I wouldn't hold office, but I do like to keep my word. But I appreciate Mr. Sturgill and I appreciate y'all.
All right, we have 5 and 1 and 0. Should put it down.
Okay, so,
All right.
the next item that we talked about with the budget committee, you should have I think a copy in your packet, but there's an agreement that we put together with the Planning District Commission to, page 158. An MOU tied back to the Grow Smith County program. That's the $3 million ARPA fund or special projects funds that we put together for housing. We're proposing to pay for those services basically out of the interest earned on the $3 million, but just to put a number out, it was at $50,000 a year to be paid in quarterly installments, and the plan is for them to give us an invoice on a quarterly basis and also giving us an accounting of the interest earned, and if there's a balance, we would pay that balance. If there's a credit, then those credits will roll over to the next quarter. And I'm hoping that it'll continue so we won't have to worry about paying it out, but we do have an MOU. The budget committee did review it, and Mr. Sturgill made a motion to recommend the MOU while Ms. Deal seconded the motion, and it was a unanimous recommendation from your committee.
All right, everybody know what we're talking about there? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Sounds like it was unanimous.
Next item we talked about may need to be, we may need to hold off on this, but we did talk about it in the budget committee, so I'll update you on it. Just in preparation for next fiscal year, we did review the first quarter appropriations, and it's quite a long list, because what I've done is I've gone back, and every time we've come to a fund that we realized that hasn't been appropriated, we had to come back to the board for a supplemental appropriation. I added all those together. The total appropriation for first quarter represents just over $38 million, which is about $9 million higher than last year's first quarter appropriation, but it does include $2.5 million for the public safety radio system, which is a CIP item, $350,000 for the transfer station, another CIP item, and just over $5 million in school ESSER related CIP projects. That's not general fund money, it's grant funds or other funds that are out there that was not part of last year's and not likely to be part of next year's. So there was a motion by the committee, Mr. Sturgill, to recommend approving the first quarter appropriation in the total amount of $38,169,864, with Ms. Deal seconding the motion as a committee recommendation. But I would go ahead and ask you to hold off on that, taking action on that until after we have formally approved the budget.
You knew I was gonna ask about that.
I got ahead of you. Yeah. That's the only thing that we have
Okay,
from the budget.
remind me to come back to that then. Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety had a joint meeting with the Marion Police Fire and EMS Committee on Thursday, June 1st here in this room at 11 a.m. We had quite the attendance, basically the majority of the fire and EMS staff from Marion, as well as our committee and staff, and then the committee from the town of Marion. I called the meeting to order at 11:06, and Mayor Helms called the Marion Police Fire and EMS Committee portion of the meeting to order as well. I opened the meeting to inquire about the desire of the Marion Town Council regarding EMS operations. Mr. Helms spoke up right off the bat to say that the Town Council has not voted either way on EMS services being turned over to the county or remaining with the town's fire department. And we had quite a lengthy discussion. Mr. Utt noted that he appreciates those in attendance, noting several, if not all, of the Marion Fire and EMS employees were at the meeting to be part of the discussion. I do want to note they were at that meeting to express their interest in keeping the fire and EMS program together because they work well together, and it makes it a lot easier to stay in one house. Mr. Rush spoke stating that it was his feeling and plea for the past several years that the county needs to fund the EMS operations fully or take it over as the county's responsibility. I stated that the town is requesting an additional $500,000, but they have not shown numbers as to how and where that money is going to be spent. I also indicated that we as board members have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. Therefore, just funding a request with no numbers to back it up is not a good idea. As any budget that is submitted to us, it's always accompanied by a full breakdown. Chihuahua Fire and EMS is a good example. Adel Fire Department's a good example, and even the little ladies from Conrock is a good example. They can take a piece of notebook paper and write it down and show us their expenditures and revenues. And we did not, to my knowledge, receive that from the town of Marion. Mr. Utt did state that he would review to see what was provided from us from the town of Marion and let us know. Did you have a chance to find any documentation that was sent with that request, or was it just a basic request?
So what was sent was a list of the total fire and EMS budget together, and 5 columns with 5 different staff members projecting what they thought was the EMS portion. They're working on a more, I guess, a better summary of what those actual costs are, and those I should get those probably early next week.
Okay. After that, Vice Mayor Gates speaking as a citizen, so there's no way of keeping things quiet in the county, and that was the reason they decided to meet, which was interesting because they didn't decide to meet. We called the meeting, but just want to clarify that for the record. And they wanted to make an effort to calm fears and get the facts out to the employees because, of course, they were concerned for their jobs. Dr. Gates also gave some options that the town had deliberated on prior to this meeting, and he also discussed the town's position and made it clear that all options are on the table for the future. Mr. O discussed the billing of the department and said that we could possibly look at doing billing for everyone so that the rates would be the same across the county, and noted that he believed what the county billed for Atkins and Saltville operations was the same as the town of Chilhowie's billing rate. And Chief Kiesling with Marion Fire and EMS noted that he believed the town of Marion rates were much lower than the others. Mr. Widener stated that the service in Marion is outstanding, but he had some questions regarding the management of Fire and EMS side, as their chief is a part-time chief and not a full-time chief. And he asked if there was full-time staff who held rank that was in-house for supervision. The town advised that there were individuals that could answer questions about human resource related issues on a daily basis. Mr. Sturgill stated that everyone does a good job, but that we just needed to work together to ensure the best service continues and is fully funded. Chief Kiesling spoke regarding an ordinance for refusals being billed, noting that he felt it would help alleviate unnecessary calls. After in-depth discussion, it was agreed by both committees that a task force will be set up to develop a plan of action for both elected bodies to consider. The members of the committee will be the following: county staff members Shauna, Lisa Richardson, and Curtis Crawford. Town staff will include Bill Rush, Billingham, Dickie Kiesling, and it needs to be noted in here that that's also Cindy Stanley and Samantha White, because they had like 2 or 3 more folks on their committee than we did. And then also Mayor Helms pointed out that we need elected officials to serve on those as well.
Oh, sorry, the line we missed was and others as needed.
And others as needed.
Yes, so 2 elected officials from each governing body and others as needed. So the motion was made to reflect that by Mr. Courtney Widener and seconded by Mr. Sturgill. And it was unanimously approved, so that is a committee recommendation.
That's nothing we need to vote on.
To assemble the task force.
Oh, I thought they were, the way I listened to it, I thought the
This is a
committee was
joint,
assembling the task
this
force.
is a joint task force because, again, if you'll look at the second paragraph of this paper, I'm not voting on anything until I see where their money is going. They've stated that they break even on fire and EMS. If they do, then they don't need our taxpayer money. So if they can show us a plan, if they want 500 to 1,000 extra dollars, are they gonna have staff? What are they doing with that money? And I've yet to be shown anything. I've also yet to be shown anything that shows their expenditures and revenues for the last 3.5 years that we've been asking for it. So I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I'm holding the line on this because we have to be responsible.
To do right, you gotta be a jerk.
Well,
and I don't think anybody ought to come through here and ask for money without any paper trail.
that's the point of all this, so.
Okay, so we got a motion to form a task force. And you just listed who all needs to be on that task force.
Correct, and the deadline to come back with a plan is June 30th.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sounds like that was unanimous. Any opposed likewise? I think it was unanimous.
Great, thank you. We also allow time for folks to speak, basically like a citizen's time. Ms. Suzanne Jennings, who's on the town council, stated that she's appreciative of what everyone has done today at the meeting, and that it shows that it's easy to work together, and she does not ever want to hear that the county is not easy to work with again. She also thanked EMS personnel for their service to the community as a whole. Also, Bradley Power spoke and gave a brief recap of the Memorial Day parade and stated, with it being EMS week, that all the personnel deserved appreciation and respect. And the reason he pointed that out is because of the timing of the meeting that was had with Marion Fire and EMS. Also missing on here in the minutes is one of the speakers, Lee Starr. We did not capture his statements. He was basically just very upset as a town employee and demanded to know who was trying to get rid of EMS operations from under the town.
It was well documented in the
Yes.
newspapers though.
It was. So the Marion Police Fire and EMS Committee portion of the meeting adjourned at 12:38, and then the Public Safety Committee's meeting continued with a discussion regarding the updated automatic aid agreement for fire service. After that discussion, we made a motion by Mr. Sturgill to send the updated auto aid agreement to the board for approval, and Mr. Courtney Weiner seconded that motion. It was unanimously approved, and I believe that is that in our packet for them to review.
It was in the packet 2 months ago.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody had an opportunity to look over it, but that is the committee recommendation to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Have any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? I believe it was unanimous.
And if you'll recall, last year for the Saltville Firemen's Bash, they had approached the county for funding to help with that event that they do every year. It's something that we did last year, and just to show our support, Mr. Crawford had actually went ahead and budgeted funds for that for this year's event. So that was just for informational purposes that we will again be supporting the Saltville Firemen's Bash. Mr. Crawford discussed the Motorola radio project rollout information, as well as the call numbers and statistics from Atkins and Saltville stations. And the Atkins year-to-date calls, 173 calls for services, and Saltville is 101 calls for services. And I am proud to say that that is 24/7 ALS coverage. And I believe we're still at that 100%. And we have had a couple times where more than one call came in and did have to get other agencies. 4 times, 5 times. So 5 times we've had to get other agencies to cover for us, but they were available and there was no lack in getting the emergency services to the folks who called. The next Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 6th at the County Office Building at 11 a.m. I encourage anyone who's interested to attend. We have those meetings the first Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. And we adjourned the meeting at 12:57.
All right, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, can I speak a second? I know, in that meeting, somebody did make, it's not the nose, so I just want to make sure that I made a comment that if whatever comes out of the task force that we offered Marion, that we offered Chilhowie also to be a fairness, that, let them look at it and have the choice, if that makes sense.
Oh, I agree.
And I will say that Mr. Crawford and I sat down with Marion folks earlier this week just to get that conversation started, to let them know.
Chilhowie folks.
Thank you, Chilhowie folks, to let them know what was going on and that we'd keep them posted. So we want to make sure we do the same thing for both towns.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
We're going to take about a 10-minute recess right now. Be back in here at 25 till. And, we'll continue on at that point. So we're gonna adjourn for about, take a recess for about 10 minutes.
No, no, it's not, it's not. We're tired. And she'll have her year. And then anything in excess will be on my name. We don't drink. I'm sure. It's a very two-step correction.
Probably so, they're citizens, they got most of them don't take advantage of I would expect to see.
Yeah, but it's got a whole back. The number of
Yes. Hey, Greg, say you will. So, I was gonna speak to the
You know, all I had to do was.
He's on vacation. We're in Hollywood today. Yeah, the cost. It's just that it's willing to. My favorite.
Oh, is that right? I'll be there Monday.
So the people that own it,
I mean, it's still something. But I mean, it wasn't necessary. Sure.
What they're trying to point out. There's when in reality, they're losing that's the point. That's what they're not explaining further.
I can't wait to see it.
See what they're trying to say is they haven't hired us. Thirdly, is they're replacing somebody else with. So at the end of the day, they can hire 2 people, which is why they still pay. So it's all training. I don't always get to hear what's said.
At least there's something.
And Chris is
Keeping busy. Jeff keeps going to the park, help Raymond, and I end up doing He is, it's good. We're gonna get out, hang out with Raymond. Take care.
So he's paying $991. He's on
Yeah, so I brought it from last two meetings, but she didn't show up. And so, as soon as I saw you, but I was forcing an email. Have you done the
Not yet.
what was the other one? Yeah, send me the That's the way I look at it. Well, you know, Parker.
Hey, Sean?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm getting ready to load Mr. Walden's house. What, I was gonna ask you if you want me to speak on the ordinance committee since I was there. If you give me about 10 minutes to get him in the house, I'll be there in about 10 or 15.
Okay, we can skip things around. When Charlie comes back in, I'll tell him.
That was, so I can
Yes.
speak to what they told us from engineers.
Yeah. Wait for the ordinance committee. Hold off on the ordinance. Yeah, we can do that, Mike.
All right, well, I'm gonna hang up while I do this. And I'll see you over in about 10-15 minutes.
All right.
All right, see you.
So,
I don't know.
I've never seen it on yet.
It never has been yet. We're big time now, we got our own stoplight.
You know, that is doing it.
No, we just got a lot of available housing in Atkins. Atkins and Sugar Grove. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
Are these mostly all legal?
Yeah, they're legal.
Because I don't know if you read that thing in New York.
Yeah, we find a revolutionary war about that, and it's It had been Ed Bridges, so he passed away. He was in charge of making sure everything was taken care of. Now it's, county money goes to it's perpetual care now. Part of it gets set up in perpetual care. They got a board, Reggie Plummer's the only one I can think of. Hazel Wagner. So if you have any questions, thanks to that, Hazel Wagner. Bobby James's house, he passed away, that's in his estate. He had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, and they all owned it together. It's really run down since he passed away. He died 5 years ago. Yeah, they're just doing it in town though, so they're not doing it in the county. But it's not a bad deal. That one would not fit your criteria. It's not blighted. The ones that they're doing really improve the neighborhood.
Yeah, I see what they're doing. I just
Yeah, I think we questioned a little bit here, you know, they're community center citizens.
They don't mind.
We're still trying to get all the, every time we think we got the last hurdle out of the way, VDOT's still in the middle of it. VDOT's been a big holdback.
So we'll see.
They don't want to, are they gonna put up
Cameras cannot be on VDOT right away. Yeah.
They've got 35 minutes. 4-lane road, exit Bullet Street, median, no reduction.
So we had to undo what we did and go back and do it. So I said, every time we turn around, we something else we did. And now they don't want it. Might be a different program, but I know in that particular program, we're not allowed to drive. Them things that you back to the book. Think so. You ready? I guess we'll have to wait till we get a quorum up here.
We're coming. We heard you pecking at us.
Y'all raise taxes, that'd be what I feel about it.
I had to calm them down.
There'll be a short course on time here next week one day.
What?
Short course on how to tell time.
I'll miss that meeting, I got plans.
All right, getting back into it now. We are, next item, I'm gonna skip the next item and jump down to under old business number F, recommendations from the planning commission.
All right, following our joint public hearing on May 25th, 2023, the Planning Commission reconvened and deliberated Andy and Terry McCall's application for a special use permit. And after discussion, Mr. Dean felt that the application met the standards set out in Article 6-2.3 of our zoning ordinance and made a motion to recommend approval of the special use permit for the event center with the condition that VDOT approve the entrance permit. It was seconded by Mr. Davidson, and the following vote was recorded, and it was 6 ayes and 1 absent. So that's the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Okay. Any questions, any comments?
Move, do we do a motion to approve that?
We can do it either way.
I move to accept the planning commission's recommendation.
I'll second.
Have a motion second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. We lost our member on the phone for a few minutes. Andy, you got to go ahead.
Thank you.
Now, backing back up to utility, when we do the utility rate?
Yep.
Utility rate fee schedule ordinance.
Okay, in your packet on page 171 and 172 is this year's ordinance for utility rates. This represents the proposed 2% across the board increase that was recommended by Davenport. Had a public hearing a few weeks ago and didn't have anyone speak, so I am recommending that we go forward with this as presented.
Okay. I guess we need a motion to accept that, don't we?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Have a motion by Lori, do you have a second?
Is all that includes, Charlie, just the water rate increase?
Water and sewer 2% only. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm still waiting on a second then.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any further discussion? I'm gonna call, since this is, I think it's important to have a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna vote no. I need to take a call. I didn't expect it.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill is absent. Mr. Stevenson says no. Dr. Ratliff?
Yes.
Mr. Widener is absent. Ms. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Call?
Yes.
4-1.
All righty, county budget resolution.
Okay, so the next item there on page 173 is the budget resolution. There's an attachment, basically it's the same thing, reiteration of what was in your attachment earlier, but it's the resolution for the overall budget adoption that we've been talking about all along. I will note that on here we'll need to do as amended, the fourth item down, and now therefore be it further resolved and enacted. There's a notation of $2.30 in this one, as well as a separate resolution. So I would recommend that this be changed to $2.22, as just approved as amended with the $2.22 rate for personal property tax. Personal property tax related to vehicles and vehicles and small trucks.
You need a motion?
Yes, sir.
Identifying that, so moved.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Now, this is the same, by doing this, we're same as voting on that $1.22 now also.
222.
Yeah, 222. We don't have to go back to it, in other words.
Well, I do have a separate resolution that also the commissioner likes to have, that has a separate rates as well as the PPTRA rate. Next year we'll change those options. But yeah, this does refer to the 222 rate.
Okay. Once again, I'm gonna do a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill's absent. Mr. Stevenson stepped out. Dr. Ratliff?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner's absent. Ms. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Call?
Yes.
Thank you.
And of course, y'all realize we're the four that's gonna get hung for that. Anything goes wrong, all the rest of it can be.
Thank you for being here. Yeah.
It ain't the first time.
Next resolution we have in your packet after the full board or full budget's approved is the one specific to the school board for their operations and CIP. Total amount of $66,235,203. Motion or recommendation that we approve that as presented.
So moved.
And Dr. Carter's here if you have any questions, if you want to drill him on anything.
We don't wanna hear from him.
Well,
We'll get him back here in July.
Right.
That's when the rubber will meet the road.
You're right, yes, sir.
Are they any closer in Richmond to getting us a number?
Nope.
No, sir. Budget conferees have met, and my understanding is they'll have a budget ready when they reconvene, but we have not been privy to any of that.
Do they realize what they do to local governments when they,
They don't care in their pockets.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the school board, resolution here. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote again.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Dr. Ratliff?
Yes.
Ms. Deal?
Yes.
Mr. Call?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Last resolution is for the setting of the property tax rates. Page 175, I will go ahead and say the recommended tangible personal property, that's in your resolution is 230, changing that to 222.
Move to approve as amended.
And I'm sorry, off that, the other change, we need to change the PPTRA rate, will need to be 40% instead of 39% based on the 222 rate.
Okay. On the tangible personal property, don't we need to show the dual rate and that we're splitting that 230 for?
230 for everything, 222 for vehicles and small trucks.
Right.
So we can add those Code of Virginia references that we did last year.
I think we need to do it here also.
Okay, as amended to include those.
Right.
Okay.
Does that sound all right to y'all?
Yes.
If it's in some way we could request that the treasurer also disclose that on the tax tickets. I mean, we got beat over the head last year for something that we. Yeah. Any further discussion?
I'll second the motion. I don't think we had a second, did we?
No. I made the motion as amended.
Okay, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Dr. Ratliff?
Yes.
Ms. Deal?
Yes.
Mr. Call?
Yes. Motion carries.
good on budget.
Okay, we're not ready for ordinance yet, you know.
Not ready for ordinance, and hopefully it'll be here soon, but we can go on to the EV charge station if you'd like.
Sounds good.
And I will look to Miss Hayden to step up, she has some updates for you.
So the plan was to come and ask for you all to approve a resolution for us to apply for grant funds for an EV charger station. The minimum floor request was $500,000 for that grant, and they do require you to fill that request. So unfortunately, we didn't have enough properties to spend $500,000, so it led us down another avenue. AEP certified some of our sites for us with the electric power and all of that, and they recommended talking to Virginia Clean Cities. So they have current funding available to partner with us to deliver some charging stations, working with Green Spot. In addition to that, they will be applying for the full $15 million request allowable in the same grant that we were going to apply for. So I would request that we send a letter of support for their application, and that you all approve us looking into the Virginia Clean Cities program that they have currently available.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. I'll be honest, I'm lost. How much does a station cost?
It's about $6,100 for the average middle of the road, but that's just for installation. That doesn't include the planning, the design, the electric components that go with it. That's just a straight cost. I think it ranges anywhere between 30 and 40,000, somewhere around that in total.
Per site.
Per site, yeah. But we do have 5 good sites that we're going to submit, and Green Spot is going to work with us on that.
Probably 6 now, yeah. Well,
He's included in that.
That's one of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
I have a question, and I have to say this for the sake of being on the public safety committee, because there is some data out there showing how difficult it is to put out a fire on an electric vehicle. So what strain is it gonna put on our fire agencies should there be an event such as that at one of these charging stations?
We should request that there be an adequate water supply in each one of these spots.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We should, Mr. Crawford suggested requiring an adequate water supply, fire flow at each station.
Most of these are in downtown areas.
So we'll have that.
So
Well,
we should have,
and that's what concerns me
yeah.
more, because it can quickly spread to other.
Right.
You don't
That's
put
good.
water on.
I was gonna say water on electric fire, I would.
No,
And that's
keep
something
water
that I can
far
ask
away
of
as
them, you know,
possible.
what protocol do they have to,
You about talked me into rescinding my
Water pulls
motion.
it out to other forms of smothering the fire, so it is appropriate to put water on it. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, come up and explain.
Sorry. It is, we're learning a lot about this, especially from New York, because they have a lot of these issues. It is appropriate to put the water on it to cool it down until we do other smothering techniques. So adequate water supply is what we need in order to get to those other things, whether it be a blanket, dirt, sand, or whatever we have to put on it to smother it for that amount of time. But that's, we do have one in the county, and that's all we have right now, and we are, we need to talk about the water supply there, but we do have one in the county at this point, so.
Whoa, don't walk off. Are you telling me that they're having a lot of fires out of these places?
New York City has actually a team that goes out when not only an EV car, but one of the EV scooters goes up, that they have a team that actually goes out to take care of this.
Do you know, are they having a lot of fires?
Yeah, so
At the stations, not necessarily at the stations, but at.
not necessarily at the
actual vehicles.
stations, but our percentage of where these things are going to be is more likely at the station or on interstate. So those are the 2 locations.
Where the charging takes effect.
Correct.
When that usually happens, like a cell phone.
I can tell you in Atkins right now, it's maybe 2 cars an hour continuously at that station all the time. So it is very used.
It's a double-edged sword, because there is a demand for it, and I think it's great, especially if you have in the downtowns, people come plug their cars in and walk downtown and patronize our establishments, but I just don't, I don't wanna miss the opportunity to say, in the event of an emergency, it is going to strain our fire agencies.
And we are working with VDOT, especially VDOT, for the calls that are happening on the interstate, which will trickle down into our local areas. The big thing we just need is the water supply.
What? We don't have a good water supply.
The towns do. So actually, to be honest, where we have hydrants, where we have water supply, compared to some of the other counties per our ISO rating, we have some of the highest numbers around us
I
at this
get
point.
that, but when you hit the towns, you hit the county too, and I don't know. I mean, I wanna discuss this. I mean, I made a motion, but a lot of this battery stuff scares me, and we're getting ready to deal with a big battery deal over in my area, substation. I'm like you. I mean, you're telling me they're having a lot of fires out of this.
I'll tell you that I'm for it. I'm in favor. I don't think that we're taxing. The thing is, we have to be proactive to make sure that we have what we need, whether it be the fire blankets, the cell block, the dust and stuff to cover it. We just have to have those things, and we're being proactive with that with VDOT. I just wanted, the big one is the water supply.
Would it be fair to say that any sites we get approved through him as well, to make sure that it has that?
Safe fire distance, safe fires out.
Maybe we ought to keep these charging places away from any place that's real populated.
Well, I mean, the unfortunate part of it is it can really happen anywhere. It could happen in on 81. I mean,
And I will say too, some of the requirements of partnerships with these companies are that it be in a centrally located area, because they want them to be able to do something while they're charging their vehicle.
Do we get any revenue off of this?
10% revenue, yes.
Well, it's a wave of the future. I'll leave my motion where it is.
We can definitely make sure that those are thought about.
I'm just saying.
We're being proactive.
Approve
Thank you.
for a resolution to get a grant to put in these charging stations.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, real quick, just out of curiosity, what ballpark figure were we looking at as far as revenue stream off of that?
The only thing that they told me was 10%, because it really just matters how many charging stations we get, what type of agreement that we have to come into with Green Spot. As soon as we get our sites approved, I can give you that information.
Do we have any data as to how many electric cars are currently in Smyth County?
I'm sure we could find that out, at least some rough numbers.
I think we have a lot more driving through
Right.
Smyth County than there are parked.
And that's the purpose of this big grant, the federal grant, is they want rural communities to be more up to par with some of the larger municipalities that have these.
One more question, forgive me. Between north on the interstate and south on the interstate, where are the locations to charge, and are they in like some sort of app that says EV stations?
The ones that we have currently, or the ones that we're proposing?
No, the ones that are somewhere between. I'm trying to figure out the draw to pull people off the interstate is what I'm trying to get at poorly.
There's actually an app and a website that tells you where the EV charging stations are. So people who have electric vehicles typically would be planning their trip around those.
It'll be on you. You can get an app and you put it on
Right.
your phone.
So I know the Sheets place in Withville had one, because I
Yes.
noticed they had some multiple.
Correct.
From there to here,
We
there's
have
probably nothing.
Exit 50.
Yeah, Comfort Inn and Exit 50 has Tesla charging stations.
Okay.
Downtown Athens.
Seriously.
Right here in the fire station.
Okay.
Right close to our stoplight.
Yep. And one that I'm aware of, that I was told of, I didn't know it was there, at the Marion Automotive Group. I heard that they had one there. I didn't know. I haven't seen it personally, but that's what I was told. Yeah.
I'd say this fire issue is gonna be something that's gonna be major on down the road. I don't think they've been in long enough to get it worked out, just like you had the cell phones for a long time when they blow up and burn. I expect the same problem with the lithium batteries they got in the vehicle. But I'll leave my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
You can talk to it.
Where are they being proposed to be put at in Marion?
Right now, there's only consideration for in the downtown area, the parking garages or possibly the farmer's market. Nothing has been approved by the companies yet.
Okay, that wasn't what was put out to tell me. Okay, thanks.
Well, if
It's
you
just
want
under
the truth of the
discussion.
matter,
There's
come to the
nothing
board
has
meeting.
been-
Stay away from town meeting.
Yeah.
All right, joint resolution regarding WDBJ 7.
So moved.
If you turn to the very back of your book, Page 179, this came to our attention from Mr. Clark and Chilhowie. So Comcast has removed WDBJ7 from the Comcast offerings. As you know, Smyth County's special in many different ways, and one of them is we're split on the coverage area between the Bristol stations and the Roanoke stations. Comcast has chosen to remove the Channel 7 from the eastern side of the county completely, and actually from the whole county. So the 3 towns and the county are being asked to adopt the same resolution that we can send to Comcast, joint signatures, and I'm in favor of it. I think it's worked in the past on some other issues, so I'd like to recommend that the board considers adopting this resolution as well.
So moved, I wasn't kidding.
Third. Any further discussion? I was unhappy when they did it, because if you're not a Tennessee fan, you miss out on Virginia Tech football.
A whole lot of stuff.
Did you start streaming and broadband yet?
No. Somebody's got cut the other night, though. I mowed through the wire, it was on the ground. Well, they didn't hang it on the pole, they laid it on the ground, so they owe me for the time I had to spend to get it out of my mower. All right, those in favor of this signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise. I hope something good comes out of this. School board budget adjustment request. Who's filled the head of that one?
Dr. Carter.
Okay. So in your packet, the very last, you'll see a memo, one before the last, in your black meeting packet. Sure. This one. Yeah. There's a memo from the school board. Dr. Birdie, you want to comment?
Sure.
Just give a little.
Sure, yeah, so as we close out a fiscal year, what happens is we have to adjust categorically. We project at the beginning of the year how funds will play and how those funds will be expended throughout the year. The complexity of closing out this year is, according to Mr. Rutt, the goal was to have one meeting in the month of June and to not have a closeout meeting, so we had to try to prepare our adjustments categorically prior to this meeting so we could get this to you to get our adjustments. And we've done the best we can, not knowing our final 2 payments from the state. We don't know our mid-month EDI nor our end-of-the-month EDI from the state with our sales tax or our basic aid. We have pretty good projections, but not exact numbers. So we have sent this as an estimation, a strong estimation of what we will need to adjust to be able to close the FY23.
Okay. So I guess we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise.
Can I ask you a question, Rusty?
Sure.
Go ahead.
This is totally different from that. I could probably get it from this guy, but
Okay.
I'm gonna leave since it's over. Where we at on getting started working on the ball fields?
Susan, we're waiting on some Little League fields. I mean, the Little League season to finish up.
We're gonna try to do all that this summer?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
As much as we can.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully it'll be done and then continue in first of August, probably.
Good deal.
Yes, sir.
We didn't want to have them start doing that, but they had to start, correct?
I do have one more request. Look away from Mr. Atkins. Typically, what we do for final numbers to get our category spent down as best we can, we come back prior to your second meeting and ask for a categorical shift. I'm asking for flexibility for the end of June to do that and go back and make it retroactive in July. Again, not to overspend appropriations, to move categorically based on our revenue. Again, if I had solid numbers coming in, it'd be easy for us to navigate, but we do not have solid numbers coming in. And as you know, $100,000 can make a big difference within a budget, and we could easily see up to a $200,000 shortfall in tax revenue from the state. So we have compensated for that just in case, but having the flexibility to move within category would help us close and prevent you all from having to have a second meeting if we do see shifts in the state budget.
And I would take it a step further if the board so considers to go ahead and authorize any shift necessary as long as the final number, that 65,006,121, doesn't change. I mean, basically, give the school board the necessary flexibility to do what they need to do to close out their fiscal year.
And this is a one-time ask to prevent a second meeting for the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, that probably.
I'm all for that. However, does that do away with our, and I don't know how the ask is, how to say it, you know, we raised such a fuss several years ago and we had to go to this categorical thing, which I thought was crazy. If are we not, by allowing that and sort of saying we don't care about the categories?
Well, and
we will, but we won't.
Well, may I?
Yeah, please.
I'm asking for a one-time flexibility on this one time as we close out FY23. And again, it's to meet the schedule of the Board of Supervisors, not the school board schedule. We'll have a closeout meeting. So if we do find ourselves that there's a $200,000 shortfall in state sales tax coming in, we've got to do some categorical adjustments to make that happen to be able to make payroll for our summer payroll. In order for us to do that, our board can approve it, but without you taking action to move categorically, we can't. So we're asking for flexibility for this one time with the reverting back to categorical as previously, again, quarterly categorical appropriations.
As long as we don't get trouble pulling with the
legally,
you're essentially just waiving the requirement or authorizing the school board to move stuff from category to category to close out the year, and then it ends. That's all the authorization you're giving him. So come July, he can't move money from category to category in the next fiscal year without talking to you.
We're asking for one time for this close out.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it was unanimous except for one not wanting to vote.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Dennis, I didn't mean that, I wasn't picking on you, I just wanted to make sure we were legal.
No, when we've spoken about that and with your attorney as well, so we wanted to make sure of that as well. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Absolutely. Yes,
All righty. Report from the county attorney. Now, I've got one more sheet of paper.
That's me.
That's you?
Yep.
Take it away then.
Well, you want the attorney to go?
Mr. Chairman, I only have one thing to report. We got a letter this week from the Attorney General's office of no objection to our voting precinct changes. So that came Tuesday maybe. Forward that on to Shannon and Sean. But I just want you to ask about that last meeting. We did receive it, so
Okay.
Voting precincts are fine.
That's what I was looking at, I wonder who's gonna comment on it. No, we gotta go back to it. And having been reminded, I need to go back to ordinance committee now.
I've got one more thing after that.
Okay. So, what page we on? Okay, going back to the ordinance committee now, 167. Who's chairman there?
Dr. Alf.
What, I don't think I was attending.
You want to turn it over to Sean?
Yeah.
Clay.
So there were two matters that were discussed at the ordinance committee meeting that met June 1st at 1:30. The first was a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance. You may recall last month the ordinance committee made a recommendation to you all to schedule a public hearing in July to adopt additional regulations for solar facilities, and then also to include some regulations for adult skill games. Another topic that was discussed at last month's meeting, but was basically tabled and discussed most recently at the ordinance committee meeting, was additional regulations for battery storage facilities. And so there was a proposed ordinance that was presented to the committee. I'll give you just the highlights of that ordinance. Effectively, any application that we receive for such a facility would have to include a decommissioning plan with their application. part of the proposal is increased setbacks of 50 feet from the storage cabinets to property lines. An emergency action plan has to be approved by the authority having jurisdiction. We basically copy and pasted the vegetative buffer requirements that we are proposing in the solar ordinance into the battery storage facility ordinance. And then these are being proposed by special use permit in the AR district, the commercial district, and the industrial districts. So following that discussion, a motion was made by Atkins District Supervisor Charlie Atkins to recommend scheduling a joint public hearing with the Planning Commission regarding the proposed battery storage facility ordinance on July 27th. Chilhowie District Supervisor Michael Sturgill seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved. So that's the committee's recommendation.
So we hadn't had that joint meeting yet. I thought I might have missed it.
July.
Yeah, the proposal is just to schedule a public hearing in July to consider these amendments to the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, because I think if you're gonna do it, you ought to have more than a 50-foot setback on something. On this major, on batteries. You ought to have enough buffer if you have a fire that you're not within 50 foot of the boundary line. I think that needs to be looked at.
I was gonna tell you what information that I gathered from, there were 4 engineers
Plus power from Plus Power.
from Plus Power that were here. 2 questions I had. Number 1 was, if the power goes down the grid, you know, if we have a power outage, could they supply power back in the grid that would allow our power to come back on sooner? The answer was, yes, they could, if Appalachian Power decides to do that. They said it would be up to Appalachian Power. They said, yes, that it can happen.
If the problem's not a transmission line.
Yeah, I'd say that's right, yeah. Number 2, I wanted to know what the financial gain would be to the county if we were to get this property, or if they were to put this facility in. They're doing one in Chesapeake, if I remember correctly.
Chesapeake City, yes, sir.
Chesapeake City, and then one here. I think they said this one would be the biggest. The one that they're looking at was 400 units. They look like basically like your storage trailers, and so Sean and I worked on the mathematical part of it a little bit to see, what the revenue would be if this were to be if we would ever approve it on a special use permit. And if I remember correctly,
2.5.
about $2.5 million a year into the county budget.
I hate to hear you say that, because when you get to thinking numbers like that, I wonder if we downsize safety when we're getting to where we need to be.
Well, safety always comes first, and like I said, they explained to us how big the grid is over there and how much. I didn't realize how big that transfer. Is it called a transfer station?
Yes.
But because I wanted to see whether or not benefits. But so far, like I said, I haven't found anything. Obviously, there's a risk in anything we do. Period. But
Well, 400 batteries blow up. There's gonna be one hell of a risk.
it would be. That's true.
Smith Valley will be off the map. That land is actually on, we're getting away from Mr. Chairman, I apologize. That land is actually on AEP, isn't it?
No, this is private land that they're contemplating.
40 acres that they've got an option on.
40.
Right.
He said 49. But maybe.
Is it behind the fire station?
It is. It's in the bottom, behind the substation.
On,
I could mess.
I'd have to look that up.
huh?
I'd have to look that up. The driveway that you turn down by the river, get to the end of that, and there's a 49-acre plot that adjoins the river.
He just said 49.
Where are they gonna put that down?
I
Will
can-
they be required to post a cleanup bond?
Yes.
Before putting it in there?
Yes.
Well, that's what we're putting in our ordinance.
Yeah, so tonight,
This is just for me.
yeah, this is just to set up a public hearing to consider changes to the ordinance. This is not an individual application for a specific site.
Has nothing to do with this particular company.
Right.
No,
This
I
is
get
just
that.
to adopt additional regulations in the zoning ordinance should we receive an application.
When is this, when you gonna have this meeting?
July the 27th.
You need a motion?
It's a
Yes.
committee recommendation.
It's a committee
So we're
recommendation.
Just waiting to vote on the
Just
committee
waiting to vote.
recommendation.
All right.
Any more discussion? Well, while we're off the topic a little bit, one of the big reasons they also say industry loves that locate close to one of these because they have a steady power supply. If it's an industry that can't have their electricity going off, it's with this next door, so to speak, power goes off, a millionth of a second later, the batteries kick in, and they're up and running.
If it ain't a line,
Right.
because they won't use Appalachia's power lines right now. As far as the talk around that's going on, Appalachia want no part of it.
Yep, but that's between them, so.
You mean, Charlie, when you say locate beside is in the county or right beside the facility?
In the county.
That transmission.
All right, any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it was unanimous.
Thank you. The second matter that the committee debated was a request from Mr. Crawford, and this was to adopt a resolution to request an FDID, Fire Department Identification Number. So following discussion, a motion was made by Atkins District Supervisor Charles Atkins to recommend approving the resolution in support of applying for an FDID. Chilhowie District Supervisor Michael Sturgill seconded the motion, and it was passed unanimously.
Okay, any discussion?
What is that number? What is it?
It's an ID number for fire departments.
It basically establishes that Smith County Fire and Rescue is a fire department.
Right.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Motion carries. All righty. Let me find my agenda again. Does the county attorney have anything new to add?
I do not.
Wanted to give you a chance. County administrator.
Okay, so the first thing I'll throw out, if we could go back to the budget committee, in page 92, for the first quarter appropriations, there is a recommendation from the budget committee to appropriate $38,169,864 as presented in that list. Mr. Sturgill made the motion and Ms. Deal seconded it. It was a unanimous recommendation from committee.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? It's gonna drive our treasurer crazy.
I've already warned him.
Okay.
Yep. The next item that I have, just as an update, transfer station acquisition. The goal is to close on Monday, early next week. I'm going to say sometime next week. We should be owners of the transfer station property, so we can move forward. VACO.
Took long enough.
Right. VACO, they have their annual county officials summit. That's going to be on August 17th at the Omni in Richmond. If anybody's interested, we can get you registered. Mr. Widener, and I guess it was Mr. Widener, Mr. Atkins, and Mr. Sturgill went last year, maybe October. So if anybody wants to go, we can get you registered. We can get the hotels taken care of. But if you can let Anna know by midweek next week, those rooms will go fast. And then finally, we're having our staff picnic, county picnic next Friday, June 16th. Joint picnic, school board, courthouse, sheriff's office, everybody in this building. Just basically come together and have fun and celebrate working for Smith County and working with each other. Just and kind of give back to the employees. So I invite everybody, if the board wants to come and help with the preparation or with the serving. You can also eat too. So
Where's it gonna be?
we're here in the back.
Got an open bar?
We're on county property. It's alcohol free. Sorry.
Get one of these guys who are ready to steal somewhere and
Right.
some
Or
evidence,
somebody
we might be
specific.
all right.
That's the only thing I have.
What time, noon time?
Yeah, be here about 11, a little after 11, 11:30. Friday, 16th.
Friday the 16th.
16.
Did we have a rain day?
We were thinking about Thursday, but the 10-day forecast is
not.
Thursday's working worse
Thursday's
than
looking
Friday.
worse than Friday, so fingers
Little
crossed
rain
Friday
hurt.
works out.
And everybody wear a fall shirt.
Right. That's all I have.
Okay. Alrighty, we're up to supervisor comment time. Lori, I'm gonna let you go first. You got plenty on. You'll cover it for everybody.
I already got my notes written
Yep.
out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express my appreciation to the staff and the board for working hard to put the budget together, and especially you, Dr. Carter. You've had a run for your money waiting on the state, so thank you all for working diligently on that. Also, I'm looking forward to working together with the town of Marion to determine the next steps for Marion Fire and EMS, and seeing their financials and discussing what we can do to serve the citizens. Also, just want to express that I'm proud of the Chilhowie track team for their state titles, and also the Marion tennis team. And I want to give a shout out to Chief Moss, one of the mothers of one of the children on the Chilhowie track team. Reached out and she said, I know we usually give a police escort to our football teams and basketball teams if they win. And she said, our track team is in 2 bands. Do you think that the police department would give them an escort? So I gave Chief Moss a call, and he was great about sending out an officer to give them a little police escort coming back into the school. So that, I think that meant a lot to them. So I appreciate Chief Moss and his officers for taking care of that. Just a couple events coming up that I want to remind everybody about. The Wolfstock in Chilhowie Park this weekend, Saturday from 10 to 5. It's always a fun event, especially for kids and the whole family. So it's from 10 to 5 in Chilhowie Park. And then proceeds from that event go to support the Smyth County Humane Society, who help us tremendously, especially from animal control standpoint, having the somewhere for those animals to go. And then also at Sugar Grove Fire Department on Saturday from 10 to 2, they're having a yard sale, car wash, and they're selling hamburgers and hot dogs. So if you can head over there and support those folks, that would be great. And just a reminder that the first Saturday of each month, the Conroe Community Center has their delicious breakfast. They do that as a fundraiser for their community center. It's from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. It's a beautiful drive across the mountain, and get to have breakfast with some great folks. And of course, bingo on Thursdays at Adwolf. Even with Thursday, when Thanksgiving falls on Thursday, those folks are playing bingo, so I can go out and support them as well. They have a delicious little deli there where you can get some food as well. So lots going on. I think it's important to support community events. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Mr. Stevenson.
What's on my mind ain't good. It ain't nobody on the board here that's against politicians, so I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. So, you know, I appreciate the round top discussion. I appreciate everybody being open. And I appreciate the people. Yeah, hell, I ain't gonna say it to you. So, you know, this ain't the place for politics. If I want to come in here, I ain't seen you in 8 years, and I ain't talking about no Democrat or Republican. I'm talking about if you choose to come here to the meeting, tell me how you want to work with the county and all do this stuff. I ain't singling out nobody. I've seen both sides of the party come in here. To me, this ain't the place for it. Go out somewhere else and do it. If you care about this county, you don't come in here and introduce yourself and I'm going to work for you. I'm saying this when Mr. Walker showed up, but I mean this about the Republican side too, because he done it too. And then walk out. You sit here, like Mr. Watson. I don't always agree with him. He annoys me sometimes, but he means what he does. He sits a whole meeting. He's got some interest in the county. Don't tell me you got interest in the county when you come in there and you want to make yourself known to get a vote. I'm not going to vote for either one of these, because that ain't what it's about. Mr. Carter, he could have walked out of here a long time ago. I know he don't like to hear my crap or anybody else, but it's here. That's the people who care about the county. So I wasn't going to say it, because I keep saying, you know, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But we signed on for this job, but I signed on to help the county, not to listen to stuff that don't mean nothing to me. So, anyway, if you come up here and you're a politician between now and November, I don't like you. I don't care whether you're good or bad. Because if you care about this county, you're gonna be sitting here every meeting. When do we see anybody that ain't on this board when they need something? If they cared about this county, and I'm talking about the ones that's already in there, they'd be sitting here every meeting. So, if you wanna know what's on my mind, that's what's on my mind.
Well, let me just say this, we do have a big celebration in the school system. Dr. Carr, you want to come up here a second? So, let me tell you how Smyth County has been recognized. This is academics. There are 360-some schools, the CIP division. CIP is a consortium that we belong to that's roughly about almost 50% of the state of Virginia. There's 53 school divisions in that. We had more schools to meet all the 30-some categories for full accreditation than any other division in the CIP. Now I can't speak to the other divisions because they're not members. But so there was only 30 schools out of 360, and we had the most of any school division. So there's a lot of hard work and there's been a lot of improvement. And I'm gonna tell you, it's been a major climb since the pandemic to get everything steered back in the right direction. So, anything you'd like to add, Dr. Carter?
No, just increased focus on academics and teachers and parents and kids, and just truly a community working together to make Smyth County stronger.
Thank you all for your work.
Congratulations.
Don't run off. While we got you here, so it's a little informal now.
Sure.
I know the teachers have talked about this budget that's coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
Is the input back from the teachers back to the school been pretty positive that, you know, that we're getting there with the salaries where they should?
Absolutely, yes, sir. And 7% helps a ton. This current academic year, we ranged up to 7.5% increases, and another 7% next year. If the General Assembly comes through, will be tremendous for us. Top of the salary scale at that point would be over $70,000, teacher salary scale. So it's lots of improvement there.
Don't hear the grumbling that we used to hear.
No, sir.
Driving to Grayson County and Wythe County and Washington County.
No. But no, that's an effort from the county and the state. I mean, that's a combined effort of both to make that happen. The Board of Supervisors.
And health insurance.
And health insurance, and Mr. Call, you mentioned the other day regarding 5% raise, but a reduction in salary due to insurance increases. We have found a way to address that to where there will not be any increase to insurance.
Several calls about that, and I've explained it to all working on it, and they understand.
It is taken care of.
Thank you
It is
very much.
fixed. Thank you. Yes, sir.
They gotta get my daughter off about that.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna say this, I know I work with him, but this man is a tremendous leader. And he cares, and he puts in more hours than probably anybody I know in any job in this county, so. You don't know how fortunate we are to have him.
It's a team effort.
I echo that. He's tremendous.
Thank you very much.
Always got a good personality, always got the kids in mind.
And you're the same here in this room as you are if I see you in Walmart, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
And I'm
But
really
it's-
glad you didn't go to Washington County, because I would have laid behind your tires and not let you leave.
I'm glad to be in Smyth County. I'm thankful to be, and it is a team effort with Mr. Sturgill and all of Smyth County schools and the Board of Supervisors, and we're thankful for that. Thankful for our working relationship.
Together, we can make everybody's job
Absolutely.
easier.
Yes, sir.
I'll go ahead and make it official that I feel guilty when I leave the parking lot and his truck's still here.
Well, he can start flattening your tires.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
Did you hear what Roscoe said?
What's that?
He said, if that's true, then we can start cutting you back a little bit.
Help that budget a little bit.
I'll take that back, what I just said.
All righty, I guess I'll go next. Just a couple of things I want to, why are we just now getting our county audit? Why are they We usually have that by, year end June 30th, we usually have it by November, December, why are we just now getting them?
No, this is, what you signed was for next
Next
June
year?
30th, 23 audit. You're just getting preparation for that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
For this coming November.
That makes more
that
sense.
was
The
pre-audit.
engagement letter.
Yeah.
That was the pre-auditors.
And where are we at with the sheriff's department looking at animal control? Are we still talking about that, or?
We need to sit down with the sheriff and have a better conversation and staff.
Okay.
I'll focus on doing that this.
We as a board probably need to sit down and look at where we want our goals to be. We met in January 2 years ago. We probably need to meet again now and,
I can pull that back out and highlight what we've accomplished.
what we've accomplished, and what we want, where we wanted to be, where we're at, and where we need to be. Yeah. I think that's been quite what's the word I'm looking for? That's been good for the county and good for us to know what we were heading toward. If you don't know what your goals are, you're just floundering around. I think we need to do that, and we need to a certain extent, inform the citizens what our goals are.
Even the Bible says, rather than a vision, the people will perish.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
So that's all
Politics and religion. This is the church.
I want to thank the staff and everyone for all the work they do to make it so when we get in here, we can handle these fairly quickly and easily, but, I appreciate the staff. I don't say it enough, but thank you. And somewhere down the road, we need to have a special, session, or whatever you want to call it, closed session, so we can talk about, our county administrator's fee, salary. Because we've handled budget talks and everything else, but we've not talked about where we need to have Sean.
We can do that, he's making way too much.
Suggested cutting him back anyway. He said he leaves early.
And we got that on recording, don't we?
We got it recorded.
Okay, but we do need to think about that, so give it some thought. And having said that, I will hush up. Roscoe, you're the last one.
Well, I'd like to thank the staff. They do a great job. It's a pleasure coming in here now. When you walk up smiling faces, they do great in all they do and help any way possible. Mr. Carter, I know you've earned it and everything, but I can't call you doctor. I seen you in diapers. And Dennis, you do a great job, buddy. You know that. Got a great family, and I know your family, your mom and dad all my life. Great people. Miss Rose doing a great job with the library over in Saul. It's amazing. That little town will surprise you every time you turn around over there. Just look at the museum and library and everything. Olin went down out of that place in 1970, and everybody said it was going to be a ghost town. Sure the hell don't look like it to me, I can tell you. Good place to live, good eating places over there now, coming around. I'll come over and visit, and God bless each and every one of you. Love you all. Thank you.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you for loaning us your granddaughter as track coach. She did a fantastic job.
She had a great
And I
time.
understand
She
we've
loves
lost
those girls, I'll tell you that.
They loved her, and I just want you to know, and I understand we've lost her to Emory Henry. Is that true?
That's what I hear.
That's what you hear. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you for letting us borrow her for a few years. She's done a well of a job.
She loves the work. Thank you.
Any other comments, Lisa, you want to say anything?
Well, I say we adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that must be in consensus on that, but I do want to thank everyone, and thank you for sticking with us tonight. We adjourn.